President Obama has said that for the Israeli-Palestinian peace process to move forward, the construction of Israeli settlements in the West Bank has got to stop. The Palestinians have made that a precondition for talks. So this afternoon, I spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Binyamin Netanyahu, and I asked him whether he would offer any kind of a freeze on settlements to get the peace process started again.
I think the issue of settlements is something that belongs to the final negotiations. It can't prejudge the negotiations. It can't be resolved before we even begin to talk about it. The issue of the settlements has to be resolved. It should be resolved at the end of negotiations, not before the negotiations.
But, Mr. Prime Minister, are you saying unequivocally you will not offer any kind of a freeze, limited, full, any kind of a freeze on settlements as a precondition to talks?
There are 250,000 people living in these communities. You know, they need kindergartens. They need schools. They need health clinics. They're living. I'm committed not to build new settlements. I'm committed not to expropriate additional land for existing settlements. But people have to live. You can't freeze life. So there is a way, I think, to relaunch a peace process and not get bogged down with this question, because we've just wasted 6 months on this issue.
A former Israeli Prime Minister, the great Abba Eban, used to say about the Palestinians, they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. If you take this position on settlements, aren't you missing an opportunity?
Charlie, I set no preconditions on the beginning of negotiations. I said I'm willing to go anywhere, any place to meet any Arab leader. First of all, the Palestinian leaders, to move towards peace. And I think Mahmoud Abbas has a great choice to make. We all do. But he has to decide, is he going to be an Arafat or an Anwar Sadat? If he's an Anwar Sadat, he'll find in me a partner for peace, and we'll make peace.
Mr. Prime Minister, just a couple of questions, if I may, on Iran. Our intelligence services, your intelligence services, struggle with the issue of how close they are to having nuclear weapons and how close they are to delivering them. How close do you think they are?
They're getting closer. There's no question about that.
And what does that mean? The Iran government right now is in turmoil. Does that make them more dangerous or less?
To have the Ayatollah regime acquire nuclear weapons, no matter how weak they are today, tomorrow they'll be a hell of a lot stronger. And that is something that would threaten the peace of the world. It should not be allowed to happen.
You say they are close in your mind. Is there a point where it becomes impossible for Israel to live in the shadow of a nuclear Iran?
Charlie, I'm not going to deal in hypotheticals. Of course, every country reserves the right of self-defense, and Israel is no exception. But as I'm pointing out today, the development of nuclear weapons by Iran would pose an enormous problem to the stability of the Middle East, to the flow of oil from the Middle East, to the security of my country, to the possibility of having terrorists enjoy a nuclear umbrella or receiving actually nuclear weapons from this Iranian regime. There's so many reasons, endless reasons, why this should not be allowed to happen, and it's time the international community acted in unison to make sure that it doesn't happen.
The Israeli Prime Minister, Binyamin Netanyahu, a discussion this afternoon, and you can see more of that interview with the Prime Minister on our website at abcnews.com.